Are you sick and tired of the real world? Have you ever wanted to be the god of your favorite franchise? Then you're gonna love town building games. That's what I've always called them, at least. They're a fairly niche genre of mobile games that let you build virtual cities and collect iconic characters. Now I know most of the good ones are SimCity or TheoTown, but that's not exactly what we're going for today. I'm not actually sure who was the first to do it, but some genius took these concepts and applied them to big beloved franchises. Of course I want to build my own Bikini Bottom. Who doesn't want their own Disney theme park? That's right, these are the types of games we'll be ranking for this town building game tier list. I've tried ranking these types of games before, but it never really works when I pump out a video every week or so, since most of the gameplay is just waiting around. This time I set aside the next 2 weeks to get as far as I can in each of these games. I thought that was a decent enough time to get past most of the tutorials and start to get a feel for each of the games. I'm really hoping to see if I plan to stick with any of these games after the time period is up, or if I'm going to delete them and never look back. Either way, this is the closest to a social experiment I will ever participate in. Sadly, tons of town building games come and go. Let's share a moment of silence for a few beloved games I really wanted to play for this video. The Croods, SpongeBob Moves In, Futurama Worlds of Tomorrow, Garfield's Survival of the Fattest, Jurassic Park Builder, and of course, The Simpsons Tapped Out, which is still alive as I'm making this, but may be shut down if you're watching after December 2024. It's a sad day when your virtual friends, family, and home are brutally massacred by the mobile game creators who gave them to us in the first place. However, there's a lot still around, some of which I played a ton of in the past and others I had no clue existed. Our list is a little shorter than usual today, but that means each game gets much more of a focus. We'll get to go really in depth with Goosebumps Horror Town, The Smurfs Village, Jurassic World the game, Family Guy The Quest for Stuff, SpongeBob Adventures in a Jam, Ice Age Village, Dragons Rise of Berk, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Peanuts Snoopy's Town Tale, Bloons Monkey City, Disney Magic Kingdoms, and The Simpsons Tapped Out. Without further ado, let's find out which games are better than real life and which ones make me want to stab myself with a real knife. I'm going to go about this video very differently than my typical style. I'm going to go through each game with my initial impressions, then come back after 2 weeks to make the final verdict and rank them. I thought it would be a fun shake-up to the formula. Let me know if you liked it or if it was just the worst, dumbest idea I've ever had. Anyways, when it came to choosing these games, I was honestly most excited to try Goosebumps Horror Town. It feels like the most out there for these games. None of them go for that dark and spooky aura that Goosebumps has. The gameplay seems to focus on each of the classic Goosebumps stories. The first tutorial one is the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. You unlock a few characters to complete missions until you unlock the best part of the game so far, the monsters. The mummy's not that exciting, but pretty quickly they add Slappy the Dummy and the epic gnomes. I'm not a crazy big Goosebumps fan, but I do know a decent amount of these classic books, and I'm already excited to get to play through the stories in this game. It's also funny that other games like Disney Magic Kingdoms have you collect happiness by fulfilling kids' dreams, and in the Goosebumps game you collect fright from freaking out kids. Just based off my first impressions, I'm guessing I'll be collecting a lot of items for these missions, get a couple more monsters and a lot of new characters, and never see a fraction of this map they just taunt you with off the bat. Maybe one day. Last thing, I'm going to be connecting to Facebook a lot today because it's always the most efficient way to earn currency and I've got to. Anyways, great start. Let's move to the next one. One of the few Facebook games I actually played was the Smurfs Village. I have never cared about the Smurfs, so I don't know why, but I thought the game was awesome. That was over 10 years ago though, and although I'm curious to see how much has changed, I'm really just impressed it still exists. And I kid you not, everything was the exact same as I remember it. The graphics, the music, the crappy text boxes, all the same. This felt a bit slower than the Goosebumps one. You kinda just build a bunch of the same exact house and work on the most basic missions possible. The main gimmick of this one is using all the Smurfs you had to complete tasks. You build more homes to own more Smurfs and therefore complete more missions. There's the occasional baking minigame or a new name Smurf to collect, but other than that you farm and build and that's about it.
You tap and wait and tap and wait. And for what? So your pretend town can have more pretend flowers than your pretend friends? What a colossal waste of time.
I happen to be playing at 2 AM, the ideal smurfing hour I must say, which taught me there's apparently a day and night cycle and my village was very suddenly cast in complete darkness. Doesn't make for great footage, huh? So we'll leave it there for now. I'm already worried it's gonna get boring fast. As most people know, Jurassic World the game is a quote-unquote sequel to the GOAT Jurassic Park builder. I cannot think of a more perfect franchise for this game genre, so of course that game ruled. But I've heard mixed reviews on this new one, so let's see what it's all about. Wait, why the hell am I playing a Pokemon game right now? This is barely a town builder at all. It's mostly about leveling up and fighting your dinos. I won't disqualify it, as I'm sure I'm going to wish more of these had unique twists as we go, but the building aspect almost doesn't matter. Still, unlocking cool dinos is always fun, and finding that Marijuanasaurus at the beginning was pretty exciting. Jurassic World introduced the idea of mixing dino DNA, which is pretty smart for a fighting game like this. Anyways, let's keep this one short. I'm excited to see how many cool dinosaurs I can get, and I really hope to unlock the Mosasaurus before then. Back when The Simpsons Tapped Out was pretty new, it was so popular that Family Guy had to try it themselves. I love Tapped Out so much I tried getting into this one, but honestly, I remember it being so lifeless and boring in comparison that I couldn't be bothered to care. It felt so much less polished, but who knows, maybe 10 years later it's had a redemption.
What? Oh.
They did fully animate an intro to this game, even if it'll never compare to the town blowing up in The Simpsons. But in Peter's latest chicken fight, they burn down all of Quahog. You start with Peter, of course, unlocking Chris, Bonnie, and Quagmire right after. I see you over there, Joe. He's gonna be my goal to reach by the end of this. Characters are definitely the most important aspect here, and in order to unlock them, you have to collect a series of items for them. It'll take more and more work each time, I'm sure. But I'm very curious to see how far I can get in this one, even if I was absolutely correct about how crappy the graphics are. Similarly to the Jurassic Park game, SpongeBob Moved In was the incredible original release, and now it's been replaced by the spiritual successor called SpongeBob Adventures in a Jam. And before you ask, there is zero point in having adventures in the name, because it is the only SpongeBob game with adventures in the name. This one also got a full intro cutscene, and the animation isn't mind-blowing, but it gets the job done. A bunch of jellyfish sweep up the town, leaving everything covered in jam. Right away, I was completely impressed by the presentation. For context, I played another game called SpongeBob Krusty Cook-Off, which is actually made by the same people, and it looks like this. Unfinished, unpolished slop. Yet this game is beautiful. Every single object is fully detailed and the animations are nice to watch. The only thing missing is voice acting, really. You go through a lot of steps in this game's tutorial. It went on, probably a bit too much. But that means this game has a bit of a head start then, huh? We're already through a bunch of jellyfish fields. I'm making Krabby Patties at the Krusty Krab, and I am genuinely pumped to see what else this game has going on. Almost everything you do is just spending energy though, so I am a tiny bit worried about how fun it'll be, but I guess we'll see, right? I was a tiny bit obsessed with Ice Age as a kid, so I must have just never heard of this one, or I definitely have played it. I am unbelievably surprised this game still exists even though Blue Sky doesn't, but I did hear Disney's making another Ice Age movie, so maybe that's a good sign for this game's future. Then again, it's pretty apparent how old this game is. Out of all the games so far, I might have to say it looks the worst. There really isn't much charm to the mission structure either, and getting iconic Ice Age characters isn't even the focus. For some reason, your goal is creating families. 2 sloth parents, 2 sloth children, and that's what we in the biz call a complete family. It's such a strange idea, hatching eggs each time regardless of the freaking species. There's also a few minigames I'd assume. So far I just had this Karate Scrat game referencing that one scene in the second movie. I do love Scrat, I won't deny it. If I can unlock that hot female squirrel, I will give this an S tier for sure. I was probably more obsessed with How to Train Your Dragon than I was with Ice Age. I've seen the first movie an insane amount of times, and I even love the book series. Again, I must have just not known about this game or I'd have played it. Anyways, if you were hoping to see Dragon Ball on the list, then this is basically just as good, right? I don't know a ton about those games, but it does seem very similar. You collect dragons, level them up, grind for resources, and open sweet card packs. I do love the dragons of this series, and raising them from little babies to scary monsters is a really fun idea. The game feels sort of small right off the bat. I couldn't do a whole lot on my first day, but here's hoping I find some crazy dragons to show off soon. Guys, this may sound hard to believe, but I'm not a brony. I love cool things like Ice Age. But if there's a big My Little Pony town building game, then you better believe I want to play it. I was a little worried about its quality based on the opening cutscene, but the graphics are actually pretty nice. And the lines have voice acting, which is good. As this one is geared towards a younger audience, you collect ponies pretty easily and play a ton of little minigames to level them up. There's even an Equestria Girls mode, which, if you don't know what that is the human version of the pony characters. Who doesn't love a real minigame, right? I've already had to replay these same 5 minigames a bunch in just the first hour of playing, so I'm a little worried. But I've already got a decent amount of characters, and I really hope to get way witty. I honestly wasn't sure about a Peanuts town builder. It's just not something I think about all that much. But based on my first impressions, it appears to be the exact same as the Goosebumps one. Probably helps that it was made by the same developer. They're the only 2 games that have this crafting mechanic be so important to the gameplay. The 2 games couldn't feel more different though, because Peanuts is just extremely wholesome. I also happened to be playing in October, probably the perfect month for this franchise, and the fall colors were very pretty. It has a bit of a slow start too. I only got a few houses built before I was forced to wait. I really hope to unlock Linus and Woodstock, they're my favorite characters. And I also hope this is different to the Goosebumps one in some way, otherwise that's not a good sign for either game. My big ol' Bloons video, which is really good and you should watch if you haven't, definitely inspired this video. I didn't have the time to give Bloons Monkey City a chance, so I made this entire other video as an excuse to do so. Smart, right? Let's give this game a proper attempt, and who knows, maybe my opinion will change this time. This one is closer to Clash of Clans and requires you to play a lot of Bloons levels. I must say, trying to get into this game is tough. I sat and played for hours, slowly unlocking more and more land. It sucks because they're all the same levels, with only 5 or so ways of balloons each time. It's extremely tedious, which is one of the reasons I didn't really get into it the first time. But a Bloons game where every monkey is created by you, and slowly over time build a bigger and bigger town, is an awesome idea. My Monkey City is pretty big already, so depending on how much time I end up sinking into this game, I might get addicted, we'll see. Okay, I might have lied a bit. Monkey City half inspired this video. I may or may not have been playing Disney Magic Kingdom since my Disney video, another banger you should totally watch. I sort of missed this game genre and just starting something new from the ground up. I love unlocking Disney characters especially, so it was perfect. That means I already have a kingdom started, and it's not crazy big, but it is about 2 months old now. You can see how little room I have for my stuff. There is no rhyme or reason to any of my buildings, and I'll definitely touch on that in my rankings. I've got a decent amount of characters too. Just unlocked all the Cinderella ones, and I should unlock Pete any day now. You get a lot of characters by playing the story, but can get random event ones from chests too. None of the ones I have are all that exciting, just Timon, Nala, and Mad Hatter. I played the last few events, unlocking these silly symphony pigs and the lady from 101 Dalmatians. Sadly, this Maleficent event is the only one going on now. Anyways, I could definitely rank this one now, but I'll wait with the rest of them. Maybe I'll have some more characters unlocked in 2 weeks too. It's a slow burn sometimes, but we'll see. And of course, I had to end on the GOAT, the Simpsons Tapped Out. This was the first town building game I ever played, and I've loved the genre ever since. I didn't care about The Simpsons before playing. Unlocking characters and completing missions with them made me want to care about The Simpsons. The art style of the world is just beautiful too. It makes it actually exciting to unlock and place buildings, which is a big problem I don't think many of the games on our list can compete with. This game was also consistently updated for over 12 years. Isn't that crazy? Monthly updates with new content, always guaranteed. And while I wasn't playing the game for those entire 12 years, I never forgot about it, and I'm pretty proud to say I basically own everything in this game. All the characters, most of the buildings, and look at all these land spaces I never use. Guys, it's really hard to motivate yourself to build an entire town nice and neatly, especially with 12 years of items. I was always in it for the characters if I have to be honest, but in the early days I definitely attempted to make a cool little town, and I never changed that starting area. Well, I think it's pretty obvious where I'm going to be ranking this one. I still want to talk more about the game at the end though, especially because, as I mentioned earlier, this game will be shutting down in December. I gotta give a final send off to it when we end this list. But if you're curious, the game has a great opening cutscene and it immediately hooks you with its first few missions and characters to unlock. You start with a crazy small town, but who even cares? Again, I was not a Simpsons fan when I played this game, it's just that entertaining. Alright, that's everything. I'll be back in 2 weeks with 12 extremely awesome towns.
2 weeks later.
Wow, has it really been 2 weeks already? I'll prove it. Here's my dang screen time reports. I wasn't messing around, people. Also, don't judge me. I had it on my phone. This is my job, okay? Before we go through each game again, let me make some quick blanket statements for the last 2 grueling weeks of my life. Nearly every game slowed down to a slog after the first 2 days or so. That is by far the most exciting time in each of these games, and after that point is when you start to notice their flaws. Some games didn't take much time out of my day, as you can see from my screen time. Smurfs and Ice Age are ones you sort of just opened, collected a few things, and moved on. Others, mainly Bloons Monkey City, allowed you to play for as long as you felt like playing, and since I was trying to make it as far as I could in every game, I spent the most time on it. Depending on your preference, you may love that, but personally, I sort of like sending my characters out for a few hours and going about my day, not playing for 5 hours until I can't take it anymore. We'll touch on that more in a bit. First, let's revisit each of these games and talk about how it's been going. So, here's my Goosebumps Horror Town on my first day of playing, and here's what it looks like now. It actually looks like a thought out town, thanks to the pre-placed roads and a few given buildings. Pretty quickly, the whole Goosebumps books idea felt like it was tossed out the window. I've barely gotten to do any of these stories, and that is mostly due to the insane asking price for these premium buildings. Truthfully, it's not that hard to get premium currency, but it would still take forever to get even one of these, meaning you have no choice but to spend money on the game. Nice. Still, I got some really cool monsters and items, and a bunch of random townsfolk and buildings I really couldn't care less about. There's a weird amount of crafting food in this game, specifically with cockroaches. My stomach was growling every time I played this game. They just make cartoon food look so good, don't they? So, unfortunately, the Goosebumps and Snoopy games, which were both created by the same company, ended up being nearly identical. Good thing that Garfield game doesn't work anymore, I'd be playing 3. These games are very character heavy, but even more item based than anything. Thank God 99% of items are guaranteed to be dropped when you complete a task, unlike the Family Guy game. Oh, we'll get to you. There are some rare items with a chance to miss, but they seem pretty fair. I also have to say these games are the only town building games I've ever played where I'm not fighting for space to place things. They give you a ton of room and lay down a series of roads and set structures to build around, making these look a lot nicer than most of my towns. I can't say I enjoy the crafting and selling items mechanic these games are entirely focused around, but I can say they were both decent games to get into and so far, not too unfair. The Goosebumps game was a pretty good choice to start with, I think, considering I'll be giving it a B tier. My Smurfs Village was extremely quaint on the first day. I didn't get through very many missions. And 2 weeks later, well, it's a bit of a mess. I've got this farming area over here, a bunch of houses thrown out to the side, and a huge unused space with the naughties outcast from the rest of the village. The Smurfs game was really nice to play because it was really undemanding. The mini games got very repetitive, but otherwise you just grow a few crops every day and that's kinda it. There are other villages you can unlock. I got so close to the island, but Sally was 1 level away. I guess I'll never get to send my Smurfs on a tropical getaway. It's pretty easy to tell that the Smurfs game is one of the earliest ones on here. Like I said, it was the first one I played, back when Facebook games were just starting. Every game nowadays is fighting for your attention, throwing battle passes and loot boxes at you just to bring some entertainment. But the Smurfs game isn't like that at all. You can build as many houses as you want, you can grow whatever crops you feel like growing, you can level up and get a bigger town, but it's really not going to change much. The same minigames are open every day, almost every mission is just sending Smurfs out into the woods for a seemingly random time period, and there is almost nothing more to this. Just comparing it to the other games, it is so simple, which could either be seen as boring or charming. It is very special to me, but I have to admit, it just felt a bit pointless to continue playing. Definitely not bad, but sadly I have to say C tier. I feel like the Jurassic World game made all my wildest dreams come true. I thought I'd get like 10 dinosaurs tops. But no, I am loaded, and the game just handed out legendary characters to me. I got a Mosasaurus, I got a Rexy, and so many more cool looking dinosaurs. I've never heard of most of these, and to be fair, maybe they're just made up, but man, it was cool seeing them all. But you can fight as them too, let's not forget. Over time, I learned to structure these battles. You can choose to attack, defend, or gain another ability point next turn. You definitely want to do that as often as you can. It allows super weak dinos to do a lot of damage as long as they can survive. But the thing is, the second I got a legendary dinosaur, all strategies went out the window. It's almost impossible to lose now, I don't even have to try. I'm sure at some point it won't be as good anymore, but getting them so early makes this a cakewalk. My quote-unquote town is pretty ugly, I can't say I put much thought into it. But I did have plenty of room, and honestly, in terms of resources too, I never ran out. This game felt really generous, and never felt overly grindy through my whole playtime. If I'm being honest with you, I'm generally considering keeping this one. Is this what Stockholm Syndrome feels like? At the end of the day, I kinda like this one the most, but it is a stretch to call it a town building game in the first place, so I refuse to make it top tier. I guess that means A tier. This game lets you skip 2 hours of any task by watching an ad, so I got through a lot of the game very quickly. Even still, my town is really not that impressive for how long it's been. It's kinda hard to collect currency in this game. Almost as if, no, you don't think? They want you to spend real money? Nah, that can't be it. Anyways, I did end up unlocking Joe. I'm happy to have reached my goal. I also got that old pedophile guy and Lois and a couple other Family Guy characters I genuinely don't care about. Trying to get characters in this game is so difficult compared to The Simpsons. Unlocking Lois took me like 5 days because you need so many items for each of them. There's a ton of costumes to unlock in the game too, which you'd think would make for an obvious Halloween event, considering I played this in late October, but there's a freaking Valentine's event going on for some reason. I have to assume this game isn't updated anymore. I was about to unlock Meg and the sea captain here at the beach, so that's what I have to look forward to if I keep playing. A lot of these games had super short timers. They expect me to log into Goosebumps Horror Town every 15 minutes or so. At least the Family Guy game understands making each task a few hours long, so I don't have to worry about it for most of my day. That is the one saving grace of the Family Guy game. It's built to not have to play too often. But that doesn't make the game suddenly good. It's an unpolished, sorry excuse of a town builder, attempting to beat out The Simpsons, but as always, never coming close. It is undoubtedly the least enjoyable game here, and you should not play it. D tier. Have you heard the phrase style over substance? Well, the SpongeBob game is literally just style and zero substance. The biggest positive about this game is how good it looks. It is definitely the highest quality 2D SpongeBob game out there in terms of visuals. But here's the gameplay they expect you to enjoy. Log in, spend your max 50 energy to clear half of an object in your path, travel back to Bikini Bottom, get a little more energy, go back, spend your energy to clear a little more of your path, log out and wait for more energy. And that is the entire gameplay loop! I didn't know this would happen in my first impressions because the game was really generous with free energy in the first couple hours of gameplay, but after that it was just this over and over. If I was dedicated at all, I could have made it much further in this game, but I just didn't care. I still had quite a few adventures though. Cleared jellyfish fields on my first day, made it through New Kelp City pretty quickly, slowed down a lot in Atlantis, which did feature freaking Mindy the mermaid, so it was totally worth it. Clawed my way through Glove World, completely lost all interest and barely finished the Chum Bucket, and now I'm currently in Medieval Moments. These locations are really cool and sometimes feature deep cut SpongeBob references, but the game is so boring, it's not worth it. I cannot for the life of me fathom why previous levels you completed disappear after 48 hours. If you like Jellyfish Fields, well, too bad. You never get to go there ever again. I just find it to be such a weird, dumb choice. There is a town building aspect, let's not forget. Since I had to use so much energy for my adventures, I never had space to place anything. My Bikini Bottom looks horrible. This Alaskan bullworm is my crowning achievement. But I will say, if you wanted to make a nice Bikini Bottom, you totally could, and I regret not spending more time on this area. I refuse to put this game in D, it is too visually pleasing for me to say so. There is definitely some enjoyment to be had here anyways, I just personally don't see the point in playing it any longer. C tier. Here was my Ice Age village day 1, and this is my village today. It is structurally horrible, but there's kind of a chaotic beauty here, I can't even hate on it. But I had to fight for room so badly there was no chance of making it look nice. The gameplay did not change from the first game, everything just got exponentially more expensive. It takes a couple of days to get a new family or expand my village now, which is definitely normal for a game like this. I got a lot of different and strange Ice Age species, like of course we have mammoths and beavers and possums, but stuff like this massive earthworm just weirded me out, especially when they also lay eggs. I never unlocked any more minigames, I just had to replay this Fruit Ninja knockoff over and over. There is truly no story to this game. Your missions are just to buy stuff to fill up a village you have no room for. At some point the pirate ship from the 4th movie showed up and then nothing ever came of it. I generally think a mission-based structure where you unlock characters from each of the movies would help this game a lot. Instead, the characters just show up and start demanding to make your animals have sex with each other and lay eggs. Ellie is forcing me to make 3 more arranged marriages consummate. I truly had no fun playing this one through the entire 2 weeks. And that hot squirrel never showed up? That's it, D tier. My How to Train Your Dragon village kinda just got jam-packed with dragons. There was very little town building taking place. These little Viking huts are the main other object, and while there definitely are decorations you can get, the game never asked me to, and almost never just organically gave me any. And compared to all the cool dinos I got, I never really unlocked that rare of a dragon. I got a few elusive ones, and some of the comments like the Whispering Death are already awesome looking, but I guess you gotta play a lot longer to get better dragons. I can't say the gameplay loop is overly exciting here. Your main two currencies are fish and wood, and you use them to level your dragons and unlock new areas. So all you do is send dragons to collect those for you, and literally nothing else. Okay, that's not completely true. There's a turn-based fighting mode and at least one other, but they're not required to play, and so I basically never did. But I have to admit, this game has a lot going for it, way more than most of the games here. And simply unlocking cool dragons is pretty much all I need to give it a B tier at least. The My Little Pony game seemed cute and pretty harmless at first, but easily became one of my least favorites very early on. They threw a bunch of stuff at you. Here's 5 different towns to build, here's 1,000 ponies you can start working on, here's 10 missions you need boatloads of currency to complete. And let's be real, this game is actually extremely generous with its currency. Look at me, I'm level 40 and I'm rich and I barely played any of it. It's just too overwhelming. It felt like there was no clear goal and there were so many different things on screen I didn't want to do any of it. So I mostly focused on unlocking as many ponies as I could before the 2 weeks were up. I got most of the main ones I think. I really want to get the Weird Owl one or one of the characters that aren't even a freaking pony, they're just some weird monstrosity, but those were a bit too premium. I think a little kid playing this game who loves My Little Pony would go nuts with this game because there is so much you can do and it's bright and cute, but I can't take it, okay? Trust me, when I played 12 of these back to back, it is just obvious which ones you like coming back to and which ones you cannot stand. D tier. Here's my day 1 Snoopy Town, and here's where I got to. I feel like I almost did a disservice to this game. Since it was number 9 on my daily grind, I often gave it less attention than it needed. I still got pretty much every classic Peanuts character I can think of, and while I didn't have much currency to unlock Woodstock, I did earn Snoopy's girlfriend at least. The main reason I didn't get very far was because the crafting system in this one is crazy annoying. And in the random chance events where I need to get an exclusive item that I tried 5 times, I never got the freaking item! This is not my fault. If you want to hear an in-depth explanation of my experience playing this game, then rewatch the Goosebumps ranking. Other than the cool monsters you send to terrorize the townspeople, these games function identically. There was a battle pass, cosmetics, and less entertaining storylines in this one for sure though. I really tried to decipher why this game is just worse than the Goosebumps one, but I can't think of a great reason. I know collecting and crafting was less fun for me, but it wasn't that much worse. I know I don't really care about Charlie Brown or Schroeder, but I don't really love the Goosebumps characters either. I feel an equal investment to both games, yet I know in my gut this one is worse. I just can't pinpoint the reason. I hate to rank a game based off of vibes, but I guess that's what it's come to, huh? It certainly wasn't unplayable, but it was definitely one of my least favorites, so I'm gonna have to say C tier. I almost feel embarrassed showing my Monkey City, but here it is. I feel like Bloons fans could rip me apart saying, "You only got that far? In 2 weeks?" And I totally get that. I personally felt like you could double the size of my city if you wanted to. But this game was so time consuming and I had to give the other games some focus and, you know, actually live my freaking real life, so this was where I got to. I spent 8 hours in this game my first week, more than double my other games. Most of the time was just spent grinding Bloons levels anyways. There are some unique levels like the Engineer Monkey tile, but pretty much every other level just feels the same as the last. My strategies never changed. 99% of these were beat by just placing a bunch of spike factories and then going to do the dishes. I do think it's too repetitive, but overall the game is definitely not as boring as I initially gave it credit for. Again, it is such a smart Bloons game. You have to earn your towers, you have to upgrade them, and packing all that into a town builder is just perfect. When you beat a level, you just made your city bigger. Isn't that awesome? These monkeys feel like they're mine. I birthed them, and every level I beat feels earned. Monkey City seems insanely flawed, in my opinion quite boring, and compared to most Bloons games, I don't think my ranking would change. But as a town building game, it is definitely one of the best ones out there. A tier. I didn't expect to get this much done in Disney Magic Kingdoms, but it was a pretty eventful 2 weeks. I made it to the end of the second chapter, fighting and defeating Zurg, which means a whole new area opened up, and I can unlock Minnie Mouse. I also got the first chapter's villain, Pete, Eve from WALL-E, Sebastian from The Little Mermaid and a random chest, and now I'm working on getting Flynn Rider from Tangled and Randall from Monsters Inc. My kingdom isn't much bigger, but that's a lot of progression, trust me. This game is definitely slow at times, but what I love about it is it's not demanding. I can play this game for a couple of minutes every 5 hours and that's all I need to do. I definitely wish it was easier to get space. My kingdom is very cluttered, and the characters can be frustrating to unlock, but that sort of applies to all these games, doesn't it? I think this game looks really nice, has a good mission structure and story, and always has something fun to work towards. There's a reason I choose to play this one over the others, meaning I have to finally give out the first S tier. And lastly, the Simpsons tapped out. Whoa, my town looks the same? Big surprise! The game does let you take a full picture of your town, it's really crazy looking. But yeah, as a man who owns most of the buildings and characters in this game, reached the max level, played through a lot of the character missions all over the course of 12 years, it's safe to say I'm really sad the game is ending. What sucks is we've seen games like Ice Age Village stick around, allowing you to keep your town even if the game is over. It is seriously a devastating move to have no way to do so in The Simpsons tapped out. Its creators know how much time and money people have spent on it. I would have preferred if we stopped getting updates much earlier if it meant they could make an offline version of this game or something. But the only reason I'm so sad to lose all these wonderful Simpsons buildings and characters is because I love this game and I always will. There will never be a better town building game, and I'm happy to at least document my town in video form one last time before the end. I love you, homie. S tier. Here's a little inside baseball for you. This video was meant to be worked on for a month, not 2 weeks. I just couldn't do it anymore. I very quickly discovered the nightmare of playing 12 town building games daily. It consumes your life immediately. All my real world responsibilities were pushed aside, and every second I had, my phone was on completing my in-game missions. I would procrastinate making food for myself, doing the dishes, even just playing games in my free time felt like a waste because I knew Peter Griffin had just finished the most recent task. I would wake up in the morning and play through each of the games in order, and it would take so long, by the time I got through them all I could just do it all again, creating a never-ending cycle. Town building games are fun, but they are dangerous. Real life needs to come first, and in your free time it won't hurt to manage a virtual world or two if you like. So play a couple of the good ones, use my tier list to make your choice, you're welcome, and create a healthy balance of time management in your life. I will probably be deleting these games now, so I can get back to living my freaking life. Thank you all for watching this video. It was basically like a social experiment. This is the closest I'm ever going to get to making a Mr. Beast video, I think. I'd really appreciate any support you can give on this video, and I'd love to know which games in this genre are your favorite. If there's a town building game where I can unlock all my members to play as, holy shit, I'd be living the dream! If you want to live in my virtual city, then please consider becoming a member of the channel today. Thank you Leland, Patrick Barjan, Bright Streak, Dojo Master, Jasper TV Keep, Gull Guy, Jeb the Legend, Cheaper Ying, Test Monkey, Marie, Callum Ford, Perskill the Netter Checky, Mr. Odell, Timur Kurinov, Aaron the Ghoul, Freakish Smile, Bordo de Bordo, Pika Girl for You, Miku, Geminot, Lewis, MD Switchy, Tapooth 74, Omegon, Tarky, Chris Out Creations, Kirby Channel 2, OK, Isabella, Jonathan Biscoff, Skibbity, Lavatane, and Nathan Brown. I'm free! It feels so good to finally break free from all these daily tasks. Oh, actually, I just got a notification on my phone. It seems like some of my friends are free today. Now if you'll excuse me, SpongeBob, Snoopy, and Rainbow Dash has finished their latest missions, and they need me! It certainly wasn't unplayable, but it was definitely one of my least favorites, so it's gonna have to say... It certainly wasn't unplayable, but it certainly wasn't unplayable, but it was definitely one of my least favorites, so I'm gonna have to say C tier.
Are you saying I'm not real? I'm just a character in a game? And there are free donuts?